Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I'm glad you're here for another conversation in our industry where I'm quite certain today you're going to walk away with some really great information that's going to help you win more business. I'm excited to welcome Jim Wall with Horizon Keystone Financial to the podcast today. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, Sid, I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, sir. Other than a little bit cold, it's cold in North Texas today. So
It's cold everywhere.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, Jim, before we jump into our conversation today, tell our listeners a little about who you are, your journey in our industry, because we've known each other for a long time, and then tell us a little bit about Horizon Keystone.
Sure. So I'm Jim Wall. I'm a strategic account manager with Horizon Keystone. We're a division of Marlin Capital Solutions. So many people on this podcast are going to know us as Horizon Keystone. We specialize in office furniture financing. We do turnkey financing. We're generalists. We can finance anything involved in an office move, but office furniture has always been the heart of our business. And we've been around 27 years. Marlin acquired us 3 years ago. And it was a great thing. Marlin's a publicly traded company. We have a lot of funding, full staff, wide credit window, and we like to help make sales happen in the office furniture world.
Oh, that's great. I like that. We like to make sales happen. So now, Jim, how long have you been in the industry?
Since 1999. So I
Okay.
usually will say since the 90s.
Me and you both since the 90s. Sounds really good. So have you always been on the financing side, or what role did you do in the 90s in our industry?
Yeah, as with anything in the commercial finance world, and I'm sure it's very similar in the office furniture world, you kind of trip into it.
Yeah.
You don't go to eighth grade and grow up and say, I'm going into commercial financing, but I love it. I started out in customer service for Citibank's leasing company, moved into documentation, and then sales from there. I love numbers. I love people, love talking about money and helping companies. So it's a good fit for me.
Okay, that's great. And you kind of stumbled into financing, and then you did a double stumble. You stumbled into office furniture.
Correct. Yeah. So it was a double stumble.
That's great. So how long have you been working in our community specifically?
In your community specifically since 2007. So going on 14 years now.
Okay, wow. So you know a lot about our industry, the people, the players, what we do, and how our industry goes to market then.
I sure do. I attend NeoCon every year. I love your industry. Great personalities. I love looking at, just the different designs and graphics that are out there. From a credit standpoint, usually if someone's moving or expanding, there's solid credit as well. So that makes my job easy, in helping them get approved for financing.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about that because financing is not new. It's been around for a long time. And as an industry, I don't feel like that we've ever really embraced it. Why do you think that is?
It's a really good question. And I always say when people ask who's your biggest competition, it's not necessarily another company. Our biggest competition is lack of use. And I don't have a good answer for why it's not regularly offered. If you think about most things in the world, let's take residential financing, for example. By the time you have your second foot in the door, a sales representative is offering you a finance solution. For micro ticket options, buying a phone, going to Walmart, you can finance your shopping cart if it's $150 or more. To large purchases, buying a house, buying a car, financing's available. It just makes sense for contract furniture sales that are upwards of a sell price of $50,000, $150,000, $500,000 to give that option. The worst that a customer can say is no thank you. You'll still have the exact same number of cash sales that you normally would have. But wouldn't you want to give your customer every possible way to say yes and to move forward? And financing is just a great way to do that.
Well, I like the point that you made is financing is all around us. I mean, you go to Best Buy to buy a TV and you get 12 to 24 months no interest financing, or you get some other special financing. You can go on Amazon to buy something and you can do quick financing on Amazon or any other e-commerce platform for that matter and apply with several different firms, if you will, and get quick financing. So it's all around us, which I think is great because it gives the consumer options, right? And those options really are about cash flow. That's what this is really about, at least in my opinion, is this is about conserving cash. Would you agree?
No, I completely agree. And especially right now, at this particular moment in time, it's the perfect solution. We're in year 2 of the pandemic, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. People are starting to get vaccinated. Trade shows are starting to put dates on the calendar. NeoCon has dates in October.
Yep.
So there's that sense that maybe towards the middle or the end of the year, things will get back to normal. So you have companies that maybe last year weren't ready to hit go on a pre-planned initiative,
Mhm.
but this year they're thinking about doing that. But there's still a lot of hesitation. There's different strands of the virus that are out there. When will herd immunity kick in? So
Mhm.
there's all these questions. So companies are still taking a conservative approach, as you said, to cash flow. They want to keep cash on hand for anything
Mhm.
that might come up. But again, they do see that light. They know that we're nearing the end and maybe they're ready to hit go. And so financing is a perfect solution in those circumstances.
Mhm.
Right now, this is what needs to be offered to every customer to help them move forward with their projects.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, right? But um, I want to talk for just a minute about we've never stepped into this as an industry. We've never really stepped into this, and I have thoughts around that. And if I piss any of you off, or sorry, if I make any of you mad, I'm sorry. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute about this, but I think part of the reason why is in the beginning we termed it as leasing. Leasing has some negative connotation associated with it for whatever reason. The appropriate terminology to use is financing. Let's give a financing option. As we just talked about, you can finance anything, anywhere, almost on the moment, on demand, literally. You can finance things. Businesses need to do that too. But as an industry, I think part of the reason that we've been so reluctant to really step into this and embrace this is we think our products should be treated as assets in a business. And the reality is they should be treated as an expense in the business. And that's the statement that I'm quite certain is going to make several people angry listening to this. Don't leave us, stay in with us and hear me out on this, right? But when you think about what's going on in the world, let's just look at the simple facts, okay? Real estate is suffering. Companies are either abandoning or reducing their real estate footprint. According to recent statistics, most companies are going to reduce their real estate footprint upwards of 30%. There are other facts that include leases are no longer going to be 10 to 20 years. They're going to be 5 to 7 years. So leases are getting shorter. And now customers are a lot smarter. The lockdown the internet was always there, but it gave the consumer a tool to use in a more powerful way. And they're online now more than they have ever been online before. So you just take these three things into consideration. It has a significant impact on the products that we sell. Part of that, I feel like I'm on a soapbox for real, Jim. Um, so, but part of that has to do with the fact that amortization of office furniture as an asset takes a long time. How many years does it take? Is it 7, 10?
Typically for office furniture, 5 to 7 years.
Okay, 5 to 7 years. So leases are shorter. And so there's this probability that the asset won't be amortized before the lease is up. So why not turn it into an expense? There's that word again. Sorry, guys. Why not turn it into an expense and really give your customer the option?
And there's some terrific tax benefits along the lines of amortization. There's something that's called Section 179 that's been out there going on 2 decades now, starting
Right?
here. But so many small and medium-sized businesses, especially the younger ones, aren't aware of it. It's not advertised very well. But that's another great sales tool. It applies if a customer purchases your asset or expense via cash or finances it. We talk about it because it also applies if they finance it.
Okay.
And all that it is accelerated depreciation. It's a wonderful sales tool. So before there was 179, a company would go to a dealership and they would buy office furniture.
Mhm.
And as you were saying, they'd write it off maybe 5 years over a maker's depreciation schedule,
Mhm.
20% a year. But what 179 and the government allows them to do is to write it all off in the year that they make the purchase, 100%. I'll use a quick example of how this helps a business.
Okay.
Let's say you have your typical 5-year-old business and they're moving or expanding for the first time, and they're coming to you and they need to purchase 100,000 in office furniture. Fantastic. They're also looking at what their corporate tax return is going to look like for the year. And they're going to make they're finally profitable. They're going to make 100,000 this year just to keep the numbers even and round. Also great. But if they're in a 21% tax bracket, and that's the minimum, a lot of small and medium-sized businesses are in a 35% tax bracket, then they're going to need to cut a check to the government at the end of the year for $21,000 to $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. But they're coming to you and they're buying furniture that they need anyway for their growing business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now their tax return looks like this. They still have that net income of 100,000 minus a depreciation expense of 100,000 because they get to write it all off. Now their taxable income is zero. They no longer have to cut a check to the government for at least $21,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a compelling reason to buy. And you're telling me I can finance this and maybe push the monthly payment off 90 days and defer it? These are the kinds of exciting conversations that we want to be having with customers. You want them to start thinking, well, where can I sign? Because it sounds like a good deal, and it is a good deal.
Right. So there's options then for it to be on the asset side and on the expense side. And both of them have benefits depending on the customer's unique position of where they are, and what is really important to them. Is that right?
That is correct. And I want to stress that you don't have to be an expert on financing and an expert on tax benefits. But what you do need to do to be a consultative salesperson is simply to offer it to your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they have a question or raise a hand, feel confident in connecting them with myself or my team.
Sure.
We can handle all the financing questions, all the tax questions. You can handle selling furniture. We can leverage each other's knowledge base to close more business together.
Right. And that's really what this is all about. This is about closing and winning more business. That customer that just not 100% certain that they want to move forward yet because they think, oh, well, I just got to pay $100,000 cash for this, and it's probably not right for my business.
Absolutely. And what you described there, Sid, is sticker shock. And you'll find that when financing isn't offered, customers may scale back more on their project. But when financing is offered, they may even spend more because the change in the payment is so minimal. Think about when you go out and buy a car and someone offers you a moonroof for $15 extra a month. You get the moonroof. It's the same concept here with higher margin ancillary items such as sound masking, artwork, signage. If you can bundle in signage that the customer really wants for $15 more a month, why wouldn't they bundle that in? So you tend to get a larger sale and you tend to get a more profitable sale when it's financed.
Okay, so that's all really great information because we think about it just as furniture, but it can be anything that they're selling inside the built environment or anything that the potential client may want to bundle potentially from other people as well, right? Like copiers, or I don't know if people buy copiers anymore. I'm using that as an example, but is that accurate?
That's very accurate. And actually, copiers are frequently financed. And
Oh, are they? Okay.
The most leasable item that's out there.
Okay.
But yeah, to your point, we do turnkey financing. So inside what a dealership sells, it's any product that you sell, any ancillary item, soft costs such as installation, shipping, sales tax, design fees can be included.
Mm-hmm.
But then to your point, even outside of what a furniture dealership sells, if a company's moving and they're getting office furniture, chances are they need phones, they need computers, HVAC equipment, lighting. We can bundle all of that into one agreement, one low payment for the customer, pay the office furniture dealership when they need to get paid, pay the phone vendor when they need to get paid.
Okay.
But this is true consultative selling. Imagine the customer experience when you're bringing all of these items together and giving them one easy solution.
Sure. That's an easy button and as it relates to financing and how I use my money. So when is really the right time to talk about this and to have this conversation with the potential client and to bring you guys into that conversation? When's the right time for that?
Great question. There's never really a wrong time to bring up financing, but what I would recommend is as early as possible. It's why we frequently train the A&D community, because they're the first person that's in front of a customer. And the earlier the financing is brought up, the larger the project tends to be, the more the customer's needs are met. Many times a dealership will put together a good, better, best scenario. Well, imagine if better was just $200 more a month than good, and best was $200 more on top of that.
Mhm.
You would get more betters and bests. Customers are coming to you for betters and bests. No one's coming to you for a good solution.
Oh,
They'll
that's so
settle.
true. They're not coming to you. They're not coming to you for a value engineered solution. They're not. That's not what they
Yeah.
want to buy. That's what they end up buying because we focus it so much on a cash transaction. And here's what it is. You change the conversation about this.
Yeah, they'll settle for a good solution, but that's not what they're coming to you
Yeah.
for. So when financing is offered, you get more betters and bests, and you're meeting your customers' needs and the culture and the look that they're going for their business.
So because this is not about $100,000 sale. This is about how much it costs per month over how many years to buy the product, right? It's about a smaller number than writing a check for $100,000. Now I'm writing a check for $1,200 for 3 years. I know that math doesn't add up. That's just my example.
Yeah.
But $1,200 for 3 years, it's a completely different conversation. It's a completely different mindset about how they make a decision.
It is. What sounds better to you? Writing a check for $100,000 or $2,000 a month?
Mhm.
And a lot of smart dealerships are breaking it down to the lowest common denominator and breaking it down to square footage. Now you're talking really dollars and cents.
Oh, so you can do that. You can help them convert the monthly payment into cost per square foot.
Absolutely. In general, there's a more precise formula out there, but a great rule of thumb is simply to take a decimal of 0.02 and multiply it by a project cost, a square foot cost, to arrive at a 60-month monthly payment. Give or take, that's a great estimate. And subject to credit, it might even be less than that, but it
Sure.
just gives your customer a number to base their budget off of.
Right. And so, guys, if you're a frequent listener to the podcast, you will remember episode number 37 with Julie Dignan and her team from CBRE and the Furniture Advisory Services. And at the very end of that episode, Julie's advice to the office furniture dealer community was to learn to think and to calculate and to talk in terms of cost per square foot and not cost per product. And Jim just underscored that and now is a resource for you to talk in per square foot to your customer to help them better understand how much the furniture is actually going to cost, especially if it's a new or a move where they're already talking in cost per square foot with the building owner or whoever the lease or the general contractor or whatever. Now you can take the furniture and actually do exactly the same thing. That's brilliant.
And honestly, it's about asking the tough questions up front. I'm sure everybody listening at one point in their career has spent 30 or 60 or 90 days quoting a project, only to find out it's not in the customer's budget. And then that ends up being a waste of time and pro bono work. You want to ask the tough questions up front, but then you want to be ready with a consultative solution, i.e. financing.
So tough questions. I love
Okay,
it. I love asking tough questions.
hit me.
What would be three, if you could come up with them on the spot,
Sure.
three tough questions that you would encourage the dealer community to ask their clients about financing?
Sure. First, I would say, how do you plan to pay for this project? Are they going to pay you cash? Is it in their budget? Is there a credit card? Because we usually want to steer away from credit card sales because then there's a 3 to 6% fee that needs to be paid. Or we have this great financing option available. You want to ask these questions and have these consultative questions asked up front so that it's set for how the customer is going to move forward with the purchase and there's no surprises at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Along the lines of that, many times the question of the 50% deposit is saved until the very last minute as well. When it's a finance sale, it's a given that we're going to cover that deposit for the customer. So that's a tough question that normally needs to be asked that doesn't need to be asked when it's a finance sale.
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases for smaller sell prices, 100,000 and under, we're trying to cut less checks on our end, send less ACH payments on our end. So presently right now, if the sell price is 100,000 or under, we are paying the dealership in full 100% upfront at the time of the purchase order. That helps the dealership's cash flow. There's no collection or accounts receivable issues. You are just paid at time of purchase order and you're done.
Wow, that's actually quite powerful. So there's a great questions, and I appreciate you sharing them. But I think the thing that comes to my mind is the benefit the dealer needs to think about in positioning this is that it saves that dreaded question. I know it's a dreaded question by a lot of people to go to the customer and say, okay, this is great. Glad you signed off. Now I need a 50% deposit. And the customer wasn't prepared for that, right? They didn't realize because it was never talked about up front, or in some cases, it's not often talked about up front. And, some companies don't feel like they should have to pay deposits, but yet dealers are responsible for deposits to their manufacturers. It's kind of got a trickle down effect with it. So being able to eliminate those deposits from the customer perspective, and then you fully fund the dealer under $100,000 up front, and that's fantastic. It solves so many different problems. Again, I would say, why don't you do this as a dealer? Why aren't you doing this on every sale?
And I think a good answer to that question is fear of the unknown. It's why we advocate scheduling learning sessions with our office, 15-minute Teams or a Zoom call, just to go through the basics. But what I would also recommend to dealerships out there is let's make offering this as easy as possible. Technology has come a long way. We've done several great webinars over the years where everybody feels good about offering financing on the call. And then you leave the call and 100 different action items hit your desk and it goes by the wayside. But if there's a way that we can automate finance payments, and again, technology has made several advancements. If on the design side, you're using Project Spec through Project Matrix, or client quoting software such as Core, Chameleon, or FCC, it's extremely easy to just automatically offer a finance payment on your proposals.
Wow. Okay.
If you're using a software platform that I didn't just mention, talk with us. We have technology tools on our end. We can create a hyperlink and send it to you. And if you can just add it to a text box where they can click through it, they can run monthly payment numbers and apply for credit instantly. The key with any product or service is it's as good as it's offered and it's as good as we're up to bat. So if we can make it visible and make it no additional work for the dealer sales representative, that's where we're going to see results and more wins.
So there's a couple of things here I want to spotlight. First off, you and your team are offering training to the dealers at any time that they want to in 15 minutes. So my first encouragement would be sign up for a training. If you're confused about lease financing or just not certain about it, or maybe it's been a long time since you even thought about it, get with Jim and his team and schedule a training for it so that you can become more educated. Then take the action step. This is the action step. Take the action step to provide a leasing proposal. There's that word. It should be financing. I'm old school. I've always been leasing. So Jim talked to me a couple of months ago, and when we were having this similar conversation, you said you got to change it to financing, and then I just slipped up right there. But
you have to use the F word, Sid.
I know, absolutely. I have to use the F word. Thank you, Jim. But offer a financing option on every sale. Put it out there. If it can be automated in your system that you're currently using, do it. If not, reach out to Jim and their team, and they're going to give you a link to be able to do it and have the customer even click through real quickly to apply for it. So take the action and include it, because what's the worst thing that could happen? If you included a financing option, what's the worst thing that could happen?
The customer says, no, thank you. I'll pay you cash. That's the worst thing that can happen.
And you spent less than 5 minutes putting together a financing option. And then they go, oh, wow, this is great. And all of a sudden you potentially get paid 100% before the order even ships. I mean, that's just got huge benefits to it, right? So Jim, have you seen a significant uptick in financing requests since the COVID-19 happened, the shutdown happened?
Yes, we've seen an uptick in financing requests. It varies based on the region of the country. So you have states that are more open than others, and there where companies are moving and expanding, there's an uptick in financing requests.
Yeah.
What I'm hypothesizing is that later this year, as we get to that new normal phase, the states that have been more closed, there's going to be all of this pent-up demand. Companies that had projects planned in late 2019 that have put them on hold, that are going to move forward. And I'm anticipating a floodgate. And still in those cases, I'm going to see the need for financing there. And to your point, just in general, even pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, it was just good form to offer your customer as many ways to move forward. As you said, the worst that they can say is no, thank you. But in many cases, it's exactly that door number two that a firm needs to move forward with an order.
Yeah, absolutely. And door number two, I like that. It's door number two. So there's no doubt that we need to, in today's environment, be more creative about how we go about winning business. And that's not just about the products that we sell or the pricing strategies that we use or the margin strategies that we use. We have to be more creative. And financing is just one of the ways that you can be more creative to win more business. And whatever you take away from today's conversation, this is about you, Mr. Dealer, winning more business and giving your customer more options. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. Jim may disagree with me, but your competition's not doing it. Because in our industry, it's not common practice. It's got to become common practice. So it may be, if you're in a competitive situation, you may be the only one positioning creative financing options to the client. And that may be exactly what they need.
I would look at it from both angles. There are some dealers that are starting to embrace the software platforms that I discussed and are offering it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're up against those dealerships and you're not offering it, then you're reactively offering something that your competition offered. And you want to lead the way with your customers. Mm-hmm. But to Sid's point, so many dealerships aren't offering it that you want to be that dealership that's leading the way. You want to win these sales. You want to give your customers every possible way to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, Jim, it's so important. And I really appreciate you being here today to talk about it and sharing this conversation with our community, because we need to be doing this. Every dealer in the country, manufacturer for that matter, needs to be embracing this as a sales tactic in order to win more business. So, Jim, any final thoughts about this before we wrap up today? That you could leave as words of encouragement or to the dealer community that's listening today?
Sure. What I would say is some great next steps is reach out to us, schedule a team training. Again, they're usually 15, 20 minutes plus Q&A. But people bring up sales tools. People bring up concepts that they're comfortable with. You've worked hard to earn a customer and to earn a sale, and you need to feel confident in myself and our team in engaging us with your customer. Yeah. And a sales training, I believe, accomplishes that. But then I would also recommend as a second action item for a sales manager or an owner or principal to reach out to me directly and let's talk about the digital strategies that are out there. How can we automatically offer financing so that it's no additional work to your team and we're capturing all the business that we possibly can right now?
That's great. Those are two really powerful things, and I appreciate you sharing that. So now, the people listening want to get in touch with you. What is the best way for them to reach out to you guys?
Best way to reach out, my contact information, I believe, will be provided with the podcast, but a great email that's easy to remember, furniture@horizonkeystone.com. And Horizon Keystone is all one word, HORIZONKEYSTONE. Furniture@horizonkeystone.com.
So we will put Jim's contact information and his LinkedIn page information, LinkedIn profile, as well as that email address in the show notes for you to have and to click on and to be able to reach out to Jim directly. The show notes for this episode are located at sidmeadows.com/episode 46. So you can go there and it can be hyperlinked directly to the email. So Jim, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here today to share this conversation. Again, I think it's a super important conversation that we have to talk more about. And I would challenge every person listening to this today to go look in your pipeline, look at the deals that you're working on. And if you have not provided a financing solution, stop what you're doing right now, pause this and click and call Jim and his team right now. No, don't really pause it, but go to the show notes and click on the email or pick up the phone and call Jim right now and get him and his team involved with you to help you win that business.
What a great, intelligent reason to follow up with a prospect.
Absolutely. Gives you a reason to call him back, right? Love it. Love it. Love it. Jim, it's great to see you, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here today. And I wish a great, successful 2021 to you and all of your team at Horizon Keystone.
Thanks so much, Sid. Same to you.
Take care.
All right. See you. Bye.